On that fateful day, I returned to my abode, only to find it vanished into the ether. Neither missives nor summons have graced my ears. A fortnight hence, I chanced upon an image upon the realm of social discourse. Mine own beloved, my progeny, mine own beloved, all gathered by the banks of a tranquil stream, where a tea-house doth stand. My progeny hath declared, he shan't perceive our absence. Neither did I report, nor did I make a call. Upon mine eyes did I gaze. 3 days hence, my WhatsApp lay besieged by 47 sorrowful, heart-wrenching images that did compel me to retreat. At this hour of 3:27 in the morn, I find myself within the confines of my late abode, sifting through the cherished images of kin now departed, including one I had not the chance to dispatch, all on the occasion of my half-century's passage. For a quarter of a century, I have dwelled amidst kin, blessed with 2 offspring I deemed I could still nurture, yet this is the reality I now face. Cast aside, or even more grievous, neglected. Pray, allow me to retrace my steps. This confinement commenced a fortnight hence, and hath lingered on for 2 moons now. Upon the arrival of my 50th year, my beloved spouse, Willow, began to exhibit peculiar behaviors. Excellent, yet what is true remains true. Engaging in discourse upon the device, igniting its glow as I enter the chamber. Such matters, indeed. My daughter, Piper, aged 20, hath begun to grace me with tender smiles and utter words such as, "Father, thou shalt adore what doth approach for the grand quintet." Even my son, Tomas, aged 23, who is oft too gentle to concern himself with the affairs of kin, hath failed to grasp the essence of the matter. I shall not speak falsehoods. It doth bring me joy. 50 years hence may indeed present a most fortuitous occasion. Dost thou not agree? I harbor no suspicions of peril, for we are not of such a nature, dear family. We are of a gentle disposition, yet we need not acquiesce to such a course. Alas, Piper's tuition hath taken a toll upon our modest allowance, and I have just rendered assistance to Tomas with the overdue payment for his inaugural chamber. It was a sum of $4,000, which I ought not to bear, yet such is the nature of paternal duty, is it not? All the choices didst lead me to ponder that perchance we were scheming a clandestine journey. Willow did oft implore me to find tranquillity whilst I endeavored to unravel the tangled threads of information. My father, Otis, did reach out to me weeks past, a rare occurrence indeed, for he seldom seeks my aid with matters concerning his abode. Pray tell, on which day shall I celebrate the anniversary of my birth? I did inform him that I inquired about the precise day yesterday, which was Monday, for I was not in attendance on the day of my birth. At the break of dawn, as the clock struck 6:15 on the day of my birth, my father did summon me with a request most urgent, inquiring if I might attend to matters at the Riverside Plan, where ailment had taken its toll. There must needs be a presence, and in the quest for such, one shall always encounter another. From the carriage of iron, I did summon fair Willow to impart the tidings of my delay, yet assured her that I would surely return post the revelries of the evening. Her voice bore an odd timbre upon the line, filled with astonishment. She merely declared it would be most fitting and then hastened away with great speed. On the occasion of my birth anniversary, I found myself bestowed with an opportunity, yet beset by a conundrum most perplexing. Alas, not a soul among my colleagues didst recall the day of my birth. Verily, I speak not of such matters, for I am not of that ilk. Indeed, my heart did yearn for the delights that awaited me in mine own abode. I did pause in my journey to procure a vessel of fine spirits upon my return. I deemed it prudent to acquire at the very least that much. At the hour of 5:53 past the morn, I didst draw into the carriageway. No extraordinary chariots awaited outside, for the unexpected had taken hold. The dwelling was utterly tender, peculiar, yet not unexpected. Perchance they sought refuge in shadows? The dwelling lay in utter desolation, bereft of arms, devoid of rice paper, stripped of spouse and offspring, with naught but silence where explanations should reside. I didst inspect the device of communication. No tidings to share. Summon Willow forthwith. Proceed to the scrolls of accounts. Summon Tomas forthwith. Identical in nature. Summon Piper forthwith. Alas, naught remains. At 7:30 in the morn, I found myself perched at the hotel desk, gazing upon the unopened armament, pondering whether some trouble or mischief lay afoot. Summoned the nearby infirmary. Alas, naught remains. Hark! The fair sister of Willow, known as Lindsay, doth bear her name. No response hath been given. At the hour of 8:14 past the morn, while still in the revelry of my gathering, I did unseal the weapon and procured it forthwith. In that moment, I resolved to peruse the realm of Instagram. I did not share many thoughts, merely observed others to discern their pursuits. And thus it came to pass. 3 hours past, a portrait of my entire kin hath been shared. Upon the shores of a fair white beach, there stood Willow, Tomas, Piper, Otis and his beloved Kinsley, alongside Lindsay, all adorned with smiles, their spirits bright and their hearts brimming with a charming essence of culture. Tomas hath dispatched the missive. A charming culture hath been awakened. He shall not perceive our absence. Verily, how amusing! He doth. Prepared and poised. Prepared and poised. Awaken to the truth. Perceive. Awaken to the truth. Perceive. 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 Awaken to the truth. Perceive. 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 Awaken to the truth. Perceive. 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 Awaken to the truth. Perceive. 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 Awaken to the truth. Perceive. 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 Awaken to the truth. Perceive. Perceive. Understood. No greetings for the day of birth, not at all. Merely images of the assembly and a moving picture of Tomas engaging in the art of song with Otis. What dost thou inquire? Father shall surely find himself in a state of dismay regarding this jest. Ha! In slumber did I rest, then to my toil I ventured forth, returning homeward to peruse the scrolls of social discourse once more. The second day of their retreat hath drawn to a close. Willow's companion inquires regarding their sojourn. Her response doth be, "Oh, the vast expanse of existence! It is a pleasure to escape the burdens of existence for a fleeting moment. Life, in its truest form. It is I. I exist in the realm of reality. Willow, beset by a tempest of disbelief. Tomas, forsooth, did possess an interest at last. Piper did convey a tale that brought forth sorrow. Upon the break of day, I did tally forth 47 tales woven round all the realms. Messages, missives, and communications through various channels, be it the swift courier of WhatsApp, the visual tapestry of Instagram, or the traditional parchment of email. The final missive from Willow did proclaim, "We shall return to our abode this eve. Pray, be present. We must engage in discourse. Verily, we shall engage in discourse. Dost thou agree? Yet, ere I proceed, I must pause once more. Cease not thy course. Cease not henceforth. Good Norman, dost thou linger in this realm? From the gentle embrace of the willow tree." Missive the 47th, dispatched at the hour of 3:28 past the hour. She hath traversed the realms of grade 2. Pray, grant me thy response. Mine heart is heavy with concern. For a quarter of a century, I have been bound in the sacred union of matrimony. In all those days, I found it nigh impossible to part from my mother in her hour of need. At no time did I abandon her in her hour of distress. In the midst of our most tempestuous quarrels, my hand ever sought the device of communication. Yet, verily, there doth exist a maiden occasion for all things. That night, slumber eluded me. I merely took my seat behind us, observing the streams as they flowed in whilst I sought after their Instagram accounts. Their emotions were of a most extraordinary nature. Fair Norman, prithee, lend thine ear, for I am beset with worry. Whilst I beheld mine own visage gazing upon her countenance, which did beam with joy at a humble stall of Bon Trang, 2 hours passed in the subterranean realm. Tomas inquired of my well-being whilst he engaged in correspondence with himself from a vessel upon the water. Piper did send a missive from her vessel, moored upon the earth's embrace. At the break of dawn, as the clock struck 5, I brewed a pot of coffee and commenced the task of organizing my affairs. The essence of the chariot's web, I, a vessel, dispatching utterances. I gathered all and arranged it within oneself. Though it may seem mad, it did aid in my contemplation. The deadbolt and doorknob, in their silent repose, lingered upon the door-table, ensconced within their own stillness. In truth, I ponder still whether I hath fashioned mine own self. That doth seem a term I would struggle to distinguish. At the stroke of 7:15 in the morn, the inaugural summons from Otis did arrive. I did relinquish it to be conveyed henceforth. He departed from a discourse that commenced with concern after a mere 2 minutes, concluding with him proclaiming that I was behaving in a manner akin to a petulant youth, marked by discrimination. Good sir, Mr. Otis hath ever held the belief that I am unworthy of his fair daughter. Ever dost thou inquire of trifling responses concerning mine abode or the convenient chariot. The summons of Mr. did not bear the fruit I had hoped for Willow. I did embark upon my daily toil, as is my custom. Accomplished. Returned to mine abode. Proceed to the subsequent summons. Father Thomas. Fair Miss Sisley. This jest hath lost its mirth. Mother doth find herself in a tempest of emotions. Dear father, I beseech thee, forgive me. Pray, bestow upon us a missive, that we may ascertain thy continued existence. Oh, fair Willow! Good sir, I prithee, know that Norman hath summoned thy fair companion, and they did declare that thy chariot doth await thee here. Pray, why dost thou not respond? Good morrow, Norman. A great concern doth weigh upon the hearts of all, for thy well-being is much pondered. Whatever thy concerns may be, this path doth not lead to resolution. Retreat, I beseech thee. Lindsay's final utterance nearly caused me to long for her serene presence. Verily, it is but a step away. Yet, I recalled her inquiry regarding a wife who toils, and thus I remained silent. Upon that eve, I devoted my hours to preparation and, thou canst not feign that naught hath transpired. On that fateful day, a most peculiar missive did arrive from Piper. She did laugh, her countenance bright with mirth, expressing her regrets regarding my birthday, declaring her desire to reach out, yet Kinsley's mother had insisted that such a call would spoil the surprise they conspired to create. She felt a certain unease about the journey, yet all around her insisted she was being overly dramatic, for Otis had borne the cost as a gesture of familial bond. In a moment of hesitation, I nearly summoned her once more, yet the vision of her in those collective captures lingered in my mind, adorned in elegance, untroubled, her countenance devoid of sorrow. Young men of 2 decades tread their own paths, forging destinies anew. Upon the morn of their return, I confronted the fresh spectre of demise, not to ensnare them wholly, for I was not adorned in beauty, but to engage in discourse. They were compelled to summon the account, to tend to my wounds, to comprehend the deeds they had wrought ere we ventured back to our abode, as though naught had transpired. I didst take a respite from mine labours, and didst bide my time. At the hour of 2:47 past the midnight's veil, a missive hath reached me from Willow, proclaiming that their chariot approacheth forthwith. At the hour of 4:32 past the morn's first light, lo, I did perceive their chariot arrive upon the gravel, a cacophony of voices mingling with the clatter of wheels upon the earth. Unbeknownst to me, their enchanted key fob had ceased to perform its duty. The summons of the key hath sounded forth. I did take a moment to provide my response. Upon undertaking that endeavor, I devised a chart of the ocular visage, fraught with challenges. Upon the swift arrival of her gaze, Willow discerned the absence of her belongings from our shared chamber and forthwith inquired with fervor as to the deeds I had wrought. In that moment, I unveiled my collection, the captured images, the financial record, the detailed account of expenditures, spread it all before them upon the kitchen table, and proclaimed that I had but a singular inquiry. When, pray tell, did I descend into such a state of worthlessness within this household? Willow endeavored to alter the course of our discourse, asserting that I was indulging in theatrics, that it was merely a sojourn, and that they had intentions to commemorate the anniversary of my birth upon their return. I did present to her the discourse exchanged with Lindsay. Her visage turned pale as the moonlit night. Tomas sought to diminish the weight of his Instagram caption, proclaiming it merely a jest, asserting that all partake in embellishment upon the stage of social media. I did present to him his own musings from the past year, each subtle jab regarding my absence, my dullness, and my adherence to the archetype of a father. His justifications withered away. Piper wept in sorrow. Yet amidst her weeping, she revealed that the journey had been in the making for many moons, intended to encompass my presence, but Otis had swayed Willow to believe that a familial renewal could flourish untainted by my somber spirit casting shadows upon their joy. At the 6th hour, we did arrive upon the scene. Alas, the lamentable truth was that none wished to engage in discourse upon the matter. A scheme had been devised concerning my fate. Norman, the sorrowful dame. Norman, the resolute patriarch. Norman, the laboring soul. That rendered it simple to cast me in an unflattering light. They were cunning in their belief that I would remain indifferent to the absence of my kin, that I would be blind to their plight, that I would be devoid of emotion. And the most grievous truth, they were in error. I allowed it to weigh upon my spirit. Forsooth, I have encountered many a misstep through the passage of time. I remained composed when I ought to have spoken. Yet I find myself in discourse at this moment. Verily, I did declare unto them my intent to shift all my fortunes to another's name, promising to repay them in kind with benefits and advancements for a span of 3 moons, whilst Willow pondered her next course of action. I vowed to uphold Piper's legacy, yet not at their cost, and thus I proclaimed they had 3 months to enlighten our kin with fresh designs or brace themselves for a reckoning. Tomas did declare that I was in error. Piper, in a state of bewilderment, didst retreat to her chamber. Willow sat at the table, her gaze fixed upon the picture I had crafted, her expression akin to one who had just learned that the jolly figure of legend was but a fanciful tale. In the morn's light, mine device did sound with a final missive from fair Willow. Never did I imagine such a turn of events would befall me. This was meant to be her boon. A tranquil moment in the stillness of the hour. Upon our return, we shall bestow upon thee a most extraordinary surprise. Alas, I am at a loss to comprehend how it hath come to be thus. I have perused it thrice. In every instance, my plight remains unchanged. The unforeseen circumstance. In this moment, following all that has transpired, she yet returns. She found herself yet again returning to the realm of the tangible. I perused my response with great care. Thy likeness, dear Willow, I possess. All 47 portraits. With 100 more yet to traverse, she remained in uncertainty. Her hour had come to a close. Thus, I cast aside my device and found slumber within my dwelling for the first occasion in many days. Silent, yet not devoid of sound. There existed a distinction. On the morrow, there shall unfold challenging discourses and weighty choices. Yet, for the very first occasion in a quarter of a century, the weight of those choices shall rest upon my shoulders alone. At last, knowledge has been unveiled. Upon the morrow of my treatment, I found myself roused from slumber at the hour of 4:17, the sound of mirthful laughter echoing in mine ears. Chortling, yet assuredly from within the abode. Upon the passage of time, I discerned that Willow did reside in the chamber of leisure. What dost thou find peculiar? My heart is but a barren wasteland, devoid of all emotion. Neither joy nor remorse doth dwell within me. Verily, naught but emptiness. For those inquiring about details, I can confirm it was a fortnight after my kin returned from their lodgings. Fortnight of dawn's delight, fortnight of whispered voices, fortnight of truth amidst a quarter-century of affection. The morrow after their return, I lingered in anticipation of arduous tales, sorrowful contritions, and tidings yearning for transformation. Verily, that is not the truth of the matter. Lo! At the stroke of 7:30, fair Willow did descend the staircase. Prepared my brew as one would on any ordinary morn, and inquired whether I was to remove it from my abode, as my plight seemed to warrant such a query. I gazed upon her for an extended span, then raised my device to my visage, the image still aglow before mine eyes. The images of her and Lindsay had conveyed that I had come to understand were lost to time. The images capture her mirthful response to Tomas' tidings. She gazed upon them as though they were strangers, then seized a fresh chance, uttering her thoughts on the device. I came to understand that my beloved spouse of a quarter-century would prefer to uncover a lucid path to freedom rather than confront the sorrowful truth of her despair. In that moment, I bestowed upon her the likeness of the riches. Perceive that all our images bestow upon her the likenesses of her establishment. Speak of how I lent my aid to this household for several moons, as she found herself ensnared in a web of $13,000 in debt. Pray, dost thou seek to uncover the most foolish of matters? She found herself unburdened by the weight of financial woes. She merely proclaimed that Otis would assist her in settling the dues. She did declare that I was most wretched, fixating upon coin and wealth, whilst the true affliction lay in my own lamentable state. Is it not a lamentable sight? Alas, I found myself in a woeful state, laboring for 60 weeks to provide for all, even to fund her extravagant sojourn for goods. The young ones presented a tale most distinct. Tomas didst arrive upon that inaugural morn, bewildered and lamenting. It commenced with the manner in which I lost him. O gift, thou art indeed a resounding affirmation, a chorus of "I" that echoes through the chambers of the heart. Verily, I continue to render payment for her tuition, yet now I do so directly to the institution, rather than through the shared account where funds seem to vanish into thin air. Upon the third day following their return, matters took a turn for the dramatic. Lo! At the stroke of 6:30, Otis did appear without prior notice, just as I was warming my repast in the contrivance of the microwave. Entered unannounced, for fair Willow had bestowed upon him the fresh cipher for the portal. Forthwith, they commenced to declare mine own actions as most unreasonable. How I was unraveling this household over a misapprehension. I did not raise my voice, did not cast him aside. I did but inquire of him the price of the resort, with a demeanor most tranquil. With a heavy heart, he let out a sigh, proclaiming that it was no trouble at all. I inquired once more, "Pray tell, what sum did he bestow to whisk my kin away on a journey, whilst I remained behind?" That is the moment he faltered in his endeavor. $8,600, 5 souls, over the span of 5 days. Seek it out, if thou dost desire knowledge. Verily, it amounts to more than $300 for each individual, each day. Never have I laid forth such a sum in all my days. Our family sojourns are ever a delight and truly rewarding. Wanderings beneath the stars, journeys upon the open road. Our family excursions doth ever prove to be simple and most rewarding. I inquired of Otis whether he possessed knowledge of the sum of coin I held within the coffers of Piper's foundation. He offered no reply. I did impart my words unto him. $25,000. For many a year, I have garnered the sum of $500 at each turn. Funds that might be spent on journeys afar, a more splendid carriage, or endeavors in one's homeland. Yet I have chosen, for the morrow is hers to behold. Then I inquired of him the sum of coin he had bestowed upon his daughter's scholars. His visage darkened with despair. He commenced perusing the notion that such was not the true affliction. How he fashioned avenues for Willow and her progeny in diverse manners. Endeavors akin to imparting knowledge unto them. To bring ruin upon one who has invested their very existence is but a tragic folly. To impart the wisdom that reverence and dignity hold greater value than shores and spirits. I did declare unto him that he had but 30 seconds to depart from my abode ere I summoned the constabulary to reach out to the patient. At the hour of 6:27 past the morn, he took his leave. Since that time, nary a word hath reached mine ears. Willow didst lose her composure after that fateful moment. Regard me as a fool for addressing her father in such a manner. Pray, let it be known that I held him in high esteem. Verily, the true cause of mine sorrow lay in the knowledge that I could ne'er bestow upon my kin the wondrous experiences he so effortlessly provided. Pray, dost thou know what? There may indeed be a kernel of verity in such a notion. Never did I receive a single coin from Otis. Forsooth, it shall never be. Yet I found a moment bestowed upon me by Otis. 22 years have passed. In the hours I toiled to forge a creation for our shared delight, he seemed to retreat, as if to revisit the past ere he returned to the realm of commerce. Upon the conclusion of the initial weekend, the stage for conflict was firmly established. Willow had undergone a transformation alongside Lindsay. Verily, it is done. Tomas hath ceased to reply to mine messages entirely. Piper drew nigh, step by step, as if the very air between them thickened with anticipation. Oftentimes, in her absence, the world felt a shade less vibrant. The kin hath transformed into a united band. Willow's spouse and kin have gathered in support, sharing their steadfastness on the social platforms, proclaiming their allegiance to the family in these trying times. Mine own sister, dwelling in 3 realms, did dispatch unto me a missive of care, accompanied by a note revealing her struggles with the cup, and a proclamation that she hath ever perceived Willow as a creature most monstrous. Then the truth didst strike with fervor. 10 days hence from her journey's end, Willow didst call unexpectedly, for her network of conquest had been laid waste at a merchant's establishment. I vanquished her with the wisdom of a learned scholar in the realm of commerce. She did inquire whether I would persist in her ruin by way of squandering wealth. With gentle words, I elucidated as one might to a young soul, assuring that I was not bringing ruin to aught. I was but laying waste to our coin. Her fortune remains her own. Mine own coin hath returned to my possession. The web of ruin doth surely weave 3 moons of financial devastation and monetary despair. Thus, we may embark upon a fresh odyssey or embrace a life anew. At that moment, she did burst forth in mirthful laughter. What a vexation dost plague me at this moment! Not concerning my kin or my sentiments, nor the ruin of my household wrought by the greed of gold. At the hour of 11:43 in the morn, I found myself the subject of a discourse from Otis. Merely 4 discourses. Pray, let us discourse upon a remedy. I shall remain silent. There exists naught to unravel at this moment. No records hath been uncovered. No fitting scrutiny hath been applied, despite mine having undergone thrice the inquiries. Merely a kinship ensnared in wretched circumstances, at long last confronting the spectre of consequence after enduring years of semblance, as if they were bound to the burden of my coin. Lo, a fortnight past, an unforeseen occurrence did unfold, ushering in a new semblance of normalcy. Tomas didst arrive at home in the morn at 8:30, not reclining in repose. His eyes were of a shadowy hue, bearing the weight of a night spent in restless vigil. He was not present to offer a formal expression of regret, per se, more akin to the moment when he commenced his craft of creation. The abode, which I aided in its dismantling, revealed itself to be beyond his wildest expectations. To cast forth upon the vast expanse of the Internet, one must consider the myriad trifles that, though seemingly trivial within the confines of one's abode, possess the potential to yield substantial wealth in the realm beyond. His fortune hath been laid to waste. To externalize hath proven to be of greater consequence than he did foresee. He secured his voyages and imbibed upon the whims of fortune, envisioning that knowledge would reveal itself in due time. The twilight hour hath arrived, and he doth draw near to his final breath. Part of me, with a heavy heart, yearns to impart that this is the grand lesson of existence and bid him farewell on his journey. Yet, my father and I found ourselves unable to partake in such an endeavor. Moreover, I did prepare for him a repast. Instructed him in the art of crafting a conventional chart. Instructed him thoroughly on the true essence of existence beyond the confines of imagination. The realm I guarded whilst he chronicled his sire as a harbinger of ruin. At the midday repast, he appeared tormented, not solely by the ruin laid bare before him, but also by the vision of what seemed to be the inaugural instance of my actions wreaking havoc upon this kin, manifesting as a testament to his chronicling demeanor. He offered no apology, nor did he stir from his place. Yet he performed an act that wounded me deeper than any response might have. He didst obliterate all traces of his account upon the desk before him. He declared his desire to have the eye attended to, free from the burden of any report of the deed. He inquired whether he might visit this eve, seeking my assistance to unravel this conundrum. Proceed, I mused. Willow presented a tale most distinct. Upon enduring any anguish, she sought solace in a personal exchange. Thus, foresight holds great worth for me. Verily, it is not a choice to be considered. I partake not in any endeavor. Those who truly perceive my essence, discern it without delay, and that doth not merit my time. Piper found herself ensnared in a most tumultuous predicament, burdened by remorse for treading upon this path, experiencing a pang of remorse for harboring desires for a connection with me still. Didst feel a heavy weight of remorse for harboring wrath against her. Lo, a heavy burden of remorse doth linger in the air. I endeavored to convey that she need not align herself with either faction. That I would ever remain by her side, come what may for Willow. That her learning should be safeguarded. That her destiny would be safeguarded. 3 weeks hence, Willow at last did approach to converse in earnest. Seated at the humble table in the kitchen, a place where we have partaken of our morning repast for 2 decades past, inquiring whether I truly intended to proceed with this endeavor. If I were truly inclined to relinquish our plight for the sake of a solitary misstep in speech, mine own device I would have bestowed upon her. Bestowed upon her once more a collection of 47 words of knowledge. Inquired of her whether she possessed wisdom befitting my years of celebration. She did express her regrets for departing, leaving me distanced from the embrace of kin. She bestowed upon her no concern save for the dread of being discovered or undone. She found herself unable to engage in discourse with another soul. Thus, I inquired of her the query that had been aflame in my thoughts throughout the week. When did I transform into a tome she could peruse? When did I transform into an unexpected revelation that she believed I would remain oblivious to or indifferent towards? What she uttered henceforth altered the course of all that was to come. She declared it was no marvel at all. For a span of years, perhaps just one, she perceived our existence as a shared bond of affection. She sought to reach me, yet I was ever engaged in toil, perpetually melancholic, and steadfastly intent on flourishing rather than transforming. In the final act, she transformed, crafting an existence that demanded not the touch of another. Pray, dost thou know what? That struck a chord within the heart. Forsooth, a modicum of verity doth reside therein. For a time, I have endeavored to endure the trials that beset me. All that I have toiled for hath slipped through mine fingers. Forsooth, I find mine heart heavy with sorrow as the night doth fall, and this melancholy hath lingered for a span of 60 weeks. But I also focused on Tomas' Little League games, helping Piper with her study plans, focusing my heart and solving problems, and keeping the car running and the stairs. I focused all the ways I knew, just not like Willow wanted to seem. We talked for 4 hours that day, real talk, hard talk about plans and sadness, and the ease that happens when 2 people stop looking at each other clearly. In the evening, she asked if there was a chance for us, if I could apologize to her for the trip, because the hard chance, because the years of small sins that led to the big thing. I told her I really didn't know that apology could be, but forget not that trust once happened to the hurt right. When it was easy, she moved the last things to Lindsay the next day, said she needed time to figure out. She didn't have me something. It's been a month since turning 50, a month since I came home to a pet house and figured out all that I've become to the people I thought was the world. A couple of days I'm happy, some days I'm just tired, but some days I'm happy.